The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. I cannot believe we are wrapping up the month of June. Next week are going to be my last two June shows of 2023. We're moving halfway through the year with laser speed and lightning ferocity, and we love that. It's been a great year for the show, and I have an awesome guest tonight. We're going to Oklahoma for the second time in 3 weeks, the Sooner State. But before we get to him, we've got to read these incredible underwriters, and we've got a few tonight, and then we will commence per usual. So we got Rod Smoke Barbecue and Pizza in Brockton. They deliver. We got Big Lee's Automotive in Hanover. We got Pembroke Radiator in Pembroke. We got Lynch's Towing, Auto, Cycle, and Truck Center in Brockton. One number for towing, one number for projects. Always looking for new scrap metal wheels, anything my pal Lynchy over there can handle. He does it all. We got John's Greenhouses and Florist Shop in Brockton. We got One Good Credit in Brockton. We got 111 Tattoo Collective in Brockton. We got Skinplicity Medical Spa in Bridgewater. Great to have them back. They've been providing treatments for skin for over 10 years, and owners Lisa Royal and Shannon Brooks are also baby delivery nurses at South Shore Hospital in Weymouth. We got Autotown Auto Glass and Auto Body in Abington. That's Skinplicity Medical Spa in Bridgewater. We got Radiologist 101 Barbershop in Brockton. We got the Auto Shop in Hanover. It's good to have Ed Rooney back. We get Pals Driving School in Middleborough. Better get set for setting up classes for October and December. It's on the website. We got Cycle Pros in Bridgewater. We got Crazy Axes Rec Center in Hanover. We got Salon Giovanni in Marshfield. We got Kingston Auto Body in Kingston. We got South Shore Market in Pembroke. We got good old Dave's Automotive in Hanson on Route 58. We got Hanover House of Pizza, great people, great deliveries, and delicious Sicilian pizza and Greek salads. We got Bryant's Auto and Tire Service in Middleborough. We got Grip It and Rip It Trading Cards and Video Games in West Bridgewater. We got Rodney's Kitchen in Halifax. We got Eli's Auto Care in Taunton. We got Genuine's Inspection in Middleborough. We got New England Floorscapes in Middleborough. We got Brockton Tire in Brockton. We got DNS Auto Works and Closing Specialists in Abington. We got Grant's Rental in Bridgewater. We got Chapin Sheds in Whitman. We got the Gun Runner LLC, the Second Amendment Freedom Store in Middleborough. We got Eastern Fitness and the Village Shops in Northeastern. We got RW Carpet and Flooring in Norton. We got Doggy Boutique, all breed professional grooming for dogs and cats, run by my great next door neighbor, Debbie Siddell in Brockton. We got Joe's Diner in Taunton. I want to thank you guys very much. And now, interviews Mr. Kylar Merrell. Is that it?
Yeah, you got it.
All right, perfect. Okay. He's a writer, I guess, and he designs a comic strip called Something in the Kitchen. Say it again.
Comics from the kitchen,
Comics from the kitchen. What else? I said comics, he said kitchen. And
there we go. We got it.
Comics from the kitchen. All right. He was referred to me by an agent in Rhode Island who's been sending me really cool people like this. And so, Kylar, first of all, I want to thank you for doing my show. And it looks like you have a studious room in there for work. Those items behind you. So you've written behind you there?
No, absolutely not. This is honestly, I just finished moving. I'm still in the process, actually.
Okay.
But I've been doing a lot of interviews and stuff for this book. And so I made sure to put up my posters in my little bookshelf so it looks like I actually have a somewhat professional background. So, yeah, no, those are just books that I read. And then, just some figures and my little Calvin and Hobbes tiger up there and stuff like that. So
I got you. And I assume those authors are inspirations to you to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, it's just books that I enjoy.
Well, I understand because I'm a writer myself. But if I was a writer before I was the greatest TV podcast host in the world.
Yeah.
Greatest short story writer in the world. I know I'm tooting my own horn. But what I'm saying is that no matter what you do, you have somebody that inspires you to do what, and I've had people in both of those fields to inspire me to do what I do. All right, well, let's talk about you. You just said you moved. Did you just move to Oklahoma or you just moved from a different part of the state?
No, I moved from a small town called Ada, Oklahoma, over to.
You've been in Oklahoma all this time.
Yeah, I've been in Oklahoma for the last 8 years now, pretty much. And I moved up to Norman, which is basically part of the OKC metro area. So I'm
I
in the
know
city.
Norman. I've never been.
Yeah.
I flew over it once in 1997 on the way to Dallas, on the way to visit my brother in San Diego.
Yeah.
Stopped in Dallas. All right. Well, tell me about yourself. Tell me about where you grew up. What did you do as a kid that kind of got you into what you're doing now? And we'll break it down further.
All right. I started actually, I grew up overseas on a military base in Japan. My
Okay,
dad was a teacher for the Department of Defense.
okay.
But originally, I was born in Oklahoma. My whole family's originally from Oklahoma. So, this has always been like in the summertime, we would always come and, stay here with my grandparents, stuff like that.
Doesn't
So,
Oklahoma have a military base too, or not? That
we
you?
have a few. Yeah, we have one in Lawton, and then we have one up here in the city that's Tinker Air Base.
Well, I
So,
mean,
yeah,
I
we
mean,
got.
was your father stationed there at all?
No,
Too? Oh,
no,
okay,
he was just a teacher for the Department of Defense. He wasn't an active duty service member or anything. He was just the Department of Defense has its own education system, the
okay.
Department of Defense education activity, and he taught for them. So he taught like soldiers whose families were stationed overseas, he taught their kids.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty safe, and it certainly wasn't during wartime, especially if
No, yeah.
you don't look too old. You only look about in your 30s at the most, I'd say, if that.
Yeah, no, I'm 26. The most we ever got was like, every once in a while North Korea would do something and we'd be like, oh no,
Oh, I know.
but that's the closest it ever got. We never got anything good, thank God,
bulldog, isn't he? That Kim Jong Un.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I guess you could say
I think
that.
he knows what would happen if he, really did
Yeah.
something ridiculous, and I think, but I can understand it must be kind of interesting when that stuff happens when you see
Yeah.
missiles flying over the Sea of Japan. I assume that's where he launches them. That's what I hear on the news.
Exactly. I guess so.
Okay, well, so when did you make your permanent stay in Oklahoma after your time in Japan?
After I graduated high school, my parents moved back to the States as well.
Okay.
I came stateside. I was in Louisiana for 2 years, but ever since then, ever since 2017, I've been in Oklahoma. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's but basically what it's been. It's been since then, and I haven't, it's been here ever since. Like I said, most of that time was in Ada. Spent a little bit of time in another little town called Seminole, and then now we're here in Norman.
Okay. So how does this play how does this play into your work as a writer? Talk about that.
Um,
When did you start writing and doing things like this?
I've always wanted to I always like to write. I always like to read,
Yep.
like to draw a little bit, but never really considered it my forte.
Okay.
And then in third grade, I remember we had it's like the first real specific writing memory that I have, or
Okay.
creative memory, because we had these journals that we kept up with every week, and I ended up adding like a chapter to the story every week, and it was just this long thing. And then I just really liked building that story and telling that and building that whole world that I made for myself. And so that was kind of the big thing for me when it came to creativity. And then in middle school, I got into comics specifically, and then around that time, I realized that there was more to the medium than just standard superhero stuff, and it didn't have to all be the same cookie cutter stories that everybody else did. And so I just went from there and kind of decided that was the medium I was gonna stick in. And so I've been making comics since about 2017 now, because for a while I just enjoyed and wanted to make, and then at some point I just decided, screw it, let's just go ahead and start doing it.
All right. Well, let's go back to your third grade. You told me. I mean, you basically did, and I can sort of relate, because as a kid myself, I had a fantasy world about time travel and doing all kinds of, going into different dimensions and astral projection and stuff like that. So did you have something like that too in your mind growing up as a kid?
Yeah. Like I said, I added like a little chapter to it every time we got to write. Sorry. And mine was about it was always based on it's whatever I was reading at the time. Like right now I'm really reading fantasy, so I'm back into fantasy. But at the time I was reading a lot of stuff with dragons. There's one series, I think it was the Fire Within series. But anyway, it's just some kids dragon series. But it was this whole thing with dragons, and you hit a mountain, and the main character was going up, and every so often he'd come across a cave with a different level of dragon, and then he had to get his way to the top. I don't think I ever finished. I don't know what he was searching for, but I also don't think that third grade me was in the space to create like a character development or anything like that. So
well, I understand that, but I understand too that as a kid, you're exposed to a lot of creativity, in fantasy, and it's fascinating. I mean, whether it's science fiction, because as we emerge as people, from infancy, we taught that there are certain things that are probable, that anything's possible, and that combining the imagination with or even throwing it against what seems impossible or seemingly or nearly impossible, we can come up with a lot of ideas, that run us. And I know how that is.
Yeah.
you know, and because, you know, I mean, in life itself is kind of a surreal existence, and we know that. We don't know how real our life is. We don't know that between life and death is that the time between when we're born and when we die isn't anything more than just a, you know, a surreal illusion, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
of,
I get what you're
of
saying.
our you know, of some greater existence, you know, that empowers this event. I mean, who
Mhm.
knows? So
Yeah.
there's no limit to where your mind can go with this. And no
Mhm.
matter how, and it doesn't take long after you learn how to walk and talk and crawl and after learning
Mhm.
after you've crawled and learned emerged into a walker and a talker and a thinker that you can, you know, you can go in
Mhm.
a lot of different directions. And I assume
Yeah.
that's what you did.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now tell me about this developed over the years. And when did you start? When did you put out your first comic strip? I assume that's what you did at some point, right?
Yeah. In like I said, in college, I was going through. I lived in Louisiana for a while, and I was
Go
going
to
through a
college. When
bit
did you go to
of.
college?
I started for my first 2 years in Louisiana. We're at University of Louisiana Monroe,
Okay.
and then my last 3 years were at the University in Ada, Oklahoma, East Central University. So it's just a little small state school. But anyway, I just I was living away from home for the first time, wasn't having a good mental health situation, and so I
Wait a minute. Hold up a second. A good mental health situation? You mean
yeah.
as opposed to a bad one that you might have had before?
No, well, I previously I would have, said I was in a relatively good mental health state, but at the time I was just really depressed. I was
Okay.
really, coming into a lot of anxiety and like clinical depression and things like that. And so, I just needed, always looked up different things and was told different things by counselors, to get yourself out of a funk. And it's always like, do something you love to do.
Okay.
And I'd always kind of told myself that like I wasn't good enough to make comics, wasn't good enough to, I didn't know how to, even if it wasn't comics, just how to, like, if I wrote something, how do I put it out there? I didn't know how to do it. And I was always too scared. And so I just, we just decided, I'm just going to do it. And so I just made a few short comics and just put them on my website. And then the website and the whole, what the comics that I make have all evolved and become something different than what I originally envisioned.
Okay. Now, how old were you how long ago? Now, first of all, what did you major in at those schools?
I was originally going to be a kinesiology major. I was going to be a personal trainer or a strength coach, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
now currently an elementary teacher. So my degree is in elementary education.
Okay. So you were oh, okay, cool. All
Yep.
right. You teach elementary school. What grade do you teach?
I for the last 2 years I've taught fifth, but this year I am about to start a new job teaching second, which is why I moved.
Okay. Now, obviously, it's summertime now, so you won't start till September, right?
Till August. August 9th is our
Yeah, that's true.
first. Yeah.
Nowadays, the kids start early
Yeah.
sometimes. All right. So tell me about the characters in your comic strips. You know, I assume there's probably some interesting people or creatures or whatever they are. So let's go. Let's break them down a little bit.
I mean, I don't really have any one specific, thing that I do. I have a
Right.
lot
I figured that.
multiple.
Let's let's roll the rug out and see what you got.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, the original ones I was doing that I kind of mentioned before were all just like I did like most people who get into comics is I wanted to make my own superhero universe, whatever. And so I started by making my own superhero characters and
Okay.
things like that. And that kind of just quickly fell by the wayside because I realized that like there weren't comics are more than just superheroes. Comics aren't a genre, they're more of a medium. It's just a
Okay.
way to tell stories. And so I moved into I moved into my first comic that I actually fully published because for a while thereafter I was doing the superhero stuff, I took a break. And then I moved into just making things that weren't superhero stuff. And so my first book was one called Terminal. It was about a science fiction book about a guy who he's had everything in his life go wrong and proceeds to fall from a space station armed with only a jetpack. And as he falls, it's him, like it's intercut shots of him falling with him reflecting on his life. And we kind
Wow.
of see, how things have come to be this way. And, he reflects on who he's become and the relationships that he's made. And it's all about, that's kind of just the whole thing is just him reflecting and learning about himself as he's in this, like these basically last moments of his life.
Oh man,
Um, and
that's
then, I
okay.
did my book Valkyrian, which was kind of just a science fiction action thing about a female spy covert ops group. It's pretty generic in terms of the story itself. It's just, people have to fight their way through a building. And then the last two projects that I've done are actually anthologies, so they're not just my work. They're all things that I've started either with as the editor or as this is my concept and my characters, and I'm gonna hire people to create an anthology around those characters. And so that's I guess kind of leads to where we're at today. I don't know.
Okay, that's fascinating. You kind of reminded me of a dream I had once. It sounds like your stories are, they're pretty like I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I guess I don't know if stoic is the word or.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, just kind of like abrasive, but interesting.
Yeah,
and they bring people to the brink of thinking, wow, life is so precious. You gotta hold on to it. We might end up like this character here in this guy's story. In this.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've kind of come to. Kind of the conclusion that I've come to about a lot of my own stuff is that it's very thinky.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, this is just an action thing. There's like also, I need an element to it of something else to make it engaging, to bring that character into it, kind of like what you were talking about.
Yeah, I understand. It reminds me of a dream I had where I was like a billion years in the future, and I was the only survivor on a space station, and it was cold, and it was like, and it was running, and I knew that any power source that I had to keep me surviving was flickering out. It was like the power was going, and it was a horrible dream. And it sounds like your stories are kind of like that too, in your comic strips.
Yeah, some of them are, I try not to make them too, just downright depressing or just really sad endings, because all the ones that I mentioned so far, even though they kind of have, like I said, very thinky moments, like, where a character is forced to like actually acknowledge acknowledge the things that they've done wrong, or acknowledge the way that things have happened in their life. There's still some level of upbeatness to it, some note of positivity at the end, because I don't want to just end it with a completely devastating thing. And like other projects that I'm working on, it's the same thing. Like there's a lot of seriousness and a lot of real like emotion to it, but I don't just want to make it just a sad ending for everybody. I think there's got to be some degree of happy ending.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Anything humorous in any of your comic strips, or have there ever been?
Honestly, not until recently. I started with I have an actual strip that I do weekly online called Peter the Fishstronaut. It's hard to say, and I cursed myself
but I
with
like
that.
the sound of it. Half fish, half man.
Well, it's just a fish floating in a spacesuit. That's all it is. It's him in his cynical robotic companion. It's basically Star Trek meets Calvin and Hobbes. It's just these two guys who are exploring the universe, and each, there's like probably 9 to 10 to 12 strips in each chapter.
Okay.
And so, each chapter is them at a new planet, and then it's just kind of the little misadventures they come across along the way. But that's been the most humor that I've really brought into anything, because that was always something I wanted to do, was to do something lighter and to do something on a weekly basis. And so I just made myself another project to do, and so I came up with that.
Now, do you do your own illustrations too, or do you have other people help you do them?
Sometimes. For a lot of the comics that I've self-published, it's work that I've done, work that I've drawn. For the Peter the Fishstronaut that I was just talking about, that one is a lot. It's a lot of a simpler style. It's a more traditional comic strip style, so it's like very basic. It's a lot looser compared to when I do like a full comic work. Usually it's a lot more complex.
Okay.
So I do some of that. I do most of that for myself, but like in the anthologies that I put together, we have other artists working on them.
Okay.
And then there's one or two projects on the side that I hire artists for, but it's kind of just depends how much I have on my plate, how much more I can take on. If I think that I can draw in a style that fits this story or not, that's kind of going to determine if I do it myself or hire it out.
Okay, now, how many people do you have like on your? I assume you have a team of people, or have had. How many people have you had working, doing your work, helping you out with your work over the years, or however long it's been since you started these projects?
For the most part, it's mostly just me, if I'm being honest.
Okay,
I have a couple people that I would consider frequent collaborators.
okay,
One is Eros Donardi. He's a colorist in Brazil,
wow,
and he's colored my two one shots, Valkyrian and Terminal, as well as a story in Fletcher Cross. And he's just been a great dude who he's just been willing to work. He was willing to help me out when I first started and wasn't really able to. I was still in college, so I wasn't really able to afford much of in terms of hiring a colorist. And so he was willing to, understand that as someone who was also new himself, and he took a bit of a pay cut for me, and I appreciate that from him. And then the other one is a guy called Derek Crow, who
okay,
he's also from Oklahoma. I met through this little weekly comics group called the Comic Jam,
wow,
and we just got paired together on two stories 2 weeks. What it is they pair artists and writers every week on different themes, and I got paired with him 2 weeks in a row.
okay,
Then later found out he was from Oklahoma through another thread, and then I was like, okay. And so I asked him to be in my first anthology, Pandemics and Panels, and then he was the co-editor on one of my books on the Fletcher Cross anthology. Plus, he's my editor on my series Outlaw Country, and so he's just been a really great guy overall as far as helping me out. And even though things might not always be his forte, he's always willing to try and to take one for the team. And he's been a huge help for me.
okay. Now, did you meet both these people? I guess you met online, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, the one in Brazil, he's probably
yeah,
never been here to the United States. You
yeah.
probably worked through online with him,
hmm
right?
Yeah, it's all through email and DMs on Twitter.
Kind of like what we're doing here, except
Exactly.
I got you. Wow, that's amazing. Is there a language issue? I mean, does he speak English?
I mean, as far as I've never actually had a voice call with him, so I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
100% sure as far as that goes. But I mean, he types English just fine. We've never had a
Well, they do it in
miscommunication.
this day and age. Anything can be translated
Yeah.
too.
I mean, there's been a few issues where I've worked with or been in talks with people from other countries, and we've had a bit of a language barrier, not usually in our communication, but like sometimes in the actual comic they were making. It was just hard to understand what they intended. Or like someone I'm talking to now, there's a bit of an issue. Like, might have to ask for clarification when he sends me something, or a lot of his stuff is worded in a technically improper way, but
Okay,
it's still understandable. And so I'm not gonna complain to him about like, hey, I'm not gonna tell him to fix his English, because he
right.
speaks better English than I do Portuguese. So
Okay. Well, plus and plus he gives you what you need anyway for your book.
exactly.
Okay. All right. So, do you ever share your work with your students at your school?
Not really, no. I'm just not uh confident enough for that. I think that in this new job, I think I will put the one of my anthologies is kid friendly. That's probably part of
Yeah,
the
and
other problem, is that a lot of my
you want it
stuff
to be
isn't
kid friendly if
super.
you're going to share it with them.
Yeah. And so like the other stuff, some of it's not necessarily inappropriate, but it's just not the most appropriate, so I just
Right.
kind of avoid it. But the Fletcher Cross anthology, and then the anthology that is funding right now on Zoop, I'm going to put that in there because those are both designed to be kid friendly. So
That's
I
great.
plan to show those off.
Yeah, and how much time a week do you spend, working on these projects in addition to your other, your job?
I would probably say anywhere to from 3 to 8. I would say it depends on the week. Some
Oh,
weeks I get a lot more
it's like a
done.
5-hour day for this. Wow.
Oh no, hours a day.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
like
all
hours
right.
a week.
That's even more. So a week, not a day. So it's
No, yeah.
3 to 8 hours a week, not a day.
Yeah.
Okay, no,
Which
that's
it
good.
just depends on, what I got going on, how,
Right.
what else I got to do. So
Yeah, that's good. It keeps you, frees you up for whatever for your other
exactly.
stuff. Do you
Yeah.
have a family down there? Are you married with kids yourself?
No, I mean, I live with my girlfriend, but
Oh, okay.
that's about it.
So
No kids,
does she
just,
do any of that? Does she help out with your work as well?
she doesn't really help out on the creative side of things. She's more of a, when it comes to, you know, making a decision as far as like, you know, what to post, or I'll have her read an email for me, or on this anthology that we're funding right now, Comics from the Kitchen, she helped me pick one of the fonts for
Okay.
the story. You know, I had like for the recipe pages, I just chose like 6 fonts that I liked, put them all in a folder for her, and sent them to her and said, hey, pick one of these. And she picked one, and I think that's the one we went with, but I'm not sure. But yeah, she helps with little things like that, you know, but she's not an official like
Well,
member or
there's
anything.
nothing. I mean, it's all part of the. If she's part of the team, that's what matters.
Exactly. And she is. I would consider her part of the team.
Oh, absolutely, sure she is. She helps you with what you got to do. Well, guess what, Kyle? We're down to the final 5 minutes. I hope you had fun talking to me. You were certainly a powerful guy to talk to, and if you had to, if I want to know before we wrap it up, do you have anything coming up on the horizon in the next few weeks, this summer, that you want to mention that you might have overlooked that might be worth noting?
Yeah. Well, yeah, one of the things I'm really trying to push right now is we have a book called Comics from the Kitchen. It's on Zoop right now, and it's Zoop is just if you're familiar with Kickstarter, the platform, it's just a comics version of that. I'll send the link over to you guys, but it's a combination comic anthology and recipe book. And so what it is it's 21 stories from different creators, all centered about food and food memories. And each story is paired with a recipe that this creator themselves sent in. So like we have a story about a guy whose dad taught him his meatball recipe. Okay. And so then we have the recipe for those meatballs. We have a recipe for, we have a story about 2 people who are arguing over whose mom's banana bread was better. And then we get the creator's banana bread recipe. Okay. And so it's just this great little combination, because it started as like, how food brings out memories in us. We all have memories that are specifically tied to food.
For sure do.
And so
appetite whetting as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, it really it's this really great fusion of the two things, because as like when you read that story about the banana bread, and then you get to bake the banana bread itself, and so you get to like be a part of that actual memory, and you get to like experience what that was to like be a part of that. And I just think it's really beautiful, and it's really great the way that it's turned out, and I'm just super happy with it. And it's like I said, it's funding right now on Zoop. We're currently close to 75% funded with about 3 weeks left. So
okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you had fun with me, what I'd like you to do, if you know anybody down in your area or anywhere, anyone anywhere that wants to do my show, have them contact me. You got my, I think. Yep. I don't know if you have my digits. I'll definitely send them to you. Well. Okay. The guy in I don't even know who his name is. The one who set the interview up. He's
Jeff Haas.
Yeah. Well, so you can definitely forward anything to him that, you know, someone that I can interview, and he'll patch us through. And that's it. So you did a wonderful job with me. And what I'm going to ask first of all, I'm going to ask, was it okay when we finish up that if you stick around and do a couple of pictures for Facebook? My tech guy will take it. I think you friended me this morning on Facebook. Yeah. And then I also want you to make sure to send any of that material that you've created here via that link that we sent you.
Yes.
And then we'll have it, and then we can edit it into the show.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. All right. Well, you did a great job with me, and I also want to make sure that we get your graphics correct before we wrap. You know, after we wrap the show up, I'll make sure that it's the way you want them, and then we will put the show together next week, and it'll be great.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, Kyle, you did a great job. So let's wrap the show up the way we started it, with my music. Here we go. All right, folks. Thanks for watching Topic Time. See you next time. Another great guest. Have a good one. Signing off.